This is Cash Color Canvas, a high level of conversation. I'm broadcasting live from livehiphopdaily.tv. And this episode is presented by Jay's Elevation. Established April 20th in Memphis, Tennessee, Jay's Elevation is a small family urban farm that focuses on providing the best hemp products from seed to experience. Learn more about their amazing products and all the services they offer for farmers at jayselevation.com. And without further ado, we are back again another Tuesday night here in the Castleberry Park area for another episode of Cash Color Canvas podcast. And I'm blessed to have a good friend of mine in the building today, man. I got my milk boy Amir in here, Chief. We call him a lot of things. But I want you to introduce yourself for those who don't know you, man.
Amir Caliph, otherwise known as Chief Red Wolf online. Some people call me Ace, like he says, a number of things. But I'm the founder of the Indigenous Hemp Education Association, which is a 501(d) tribal nonprofit that advocates for indigenous hemp rights and just overall history on the plant.
That's what's up, man. We're going to learn about what indigenous hemp rights are, as well as a little bit more about the history of hemp through your book, The Indigenous History of Hemp. But before we get into all that, I want to get into your 420 background, man. What was the first time that you consumed cannabis?
The first time I consumed cannabis was probably about 8 years old.
Really? You was a youngin'?
Yeah, I was real young. My grandfather actually used to transport cannabis bales and oil drums. So cannabis has always been in our family, as a sacrament and as, a way to make money. Okay. So by 8 years old, my uncle handed me the blunt, in the back seat. So that started my love affair with,
That's crazy, man. Did you actually have did you actually get a high, or do you remember it? 8 years old is pretty young.
Yeah. No, I very, very remember that. I was very stoned. Actually went in the house and went right past my grandmother and actually just went to bed and just went to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Just because I didn't want her to see me, in an altered state. Right.
Well, since then, what is your relationship like with the plant? Is there a reason why you consume? Have you thought about it, whether it's anxiety or is it just something that, is your recreational thing? Have you thought about why you consume?
It's recreational, it's medicinal, it's spiritual for me. It's a lot of things. So that is the reason why I've always been connected to the plant and felt the need to write this book. Yeah. So I've always been connected to the plant. Yeah.
Let's talk about the indigenous history of hemp. I've seen you with the book for a while. I've heard you speak about it. And I've had a great chance to have you have conversations with you about the history of hemp, man. Mm-hmm. Speak to us about the indigenous history of hemp. And I guess what is it that people miss out when it comes to the history of hemp in this country?
Well, basically one of the reasons why I did write the book is because the indigenous side of the story is hardly never told. Mm. So with the plant, that is not the exception. Every time we hear about hemp stories, it's always the presidents, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, they love
the founding fathers, Talk about him being on the $10 bill and this, that, and the third, but it's never a relation to how it relates to us as indigenous people or melanated people.
Fact.
So,
and it's hardly ever they let you know how some of this hemp was getting farmed and processed. It's not like Thomas Jefferson was out there doing it himself.
No, he had people that look like us out there, sharecropping and harvesting his hemp for him. So if anybody has indigenous knowledge and knowledge on this planet, anybody should be in a position to be farming, cultivating, manufacturing, distributing this plant. It should be us first. Okay. So that's really the main reason why, I wrote the book, to just address certain things that people can kind of fill in the history, the timeline of how hemp came about and how it got to America.
Got it, man. So speak to us about how hemp came about and how it got to America.
That's a long conversation. We can just hit a couple bullet points.
Sure.
I go in the book and just show the timeline. It started in Africa, migrated to Asia. Was used by emperors. If you read the book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, it's mentioned in there. All of the different medicinal benefits that it was listed around that time, and then we moved to more of, just to fast forward, we move into the Americas and we tell people how hemp and tobacco is kind of related into the founding of the country. Mm-hmm. And those were the two plants that we really went to war over. Yeah. So it's just the basic history of all the indigenous cultures and native people that have touched this plant in the timeline. So all of the African cultures, all the American cultures, South American cultures, that distributed and manufactured this plant.
All right, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
And so far, what's the reception been like for the book from people who have read it? Are they hitting you with questions like, "Man, I didn't know that," or "I was ready to learn some of this information. I didn't know this already." What was it like?
It's been very informative, very inspiring, actually, to see how many people are learning new facts about the plant. Everybody from children to doctors and lawmakers. I put this book in their hand and they're learning something new.
Yeah.
So it's all about just getting the education out there, informing people to writing exact information, and letting them make the educated decision. Yeah. Once they have all the right information, they can make the right educated decision.
That's what's up, man. Well, we live in a world of know-it-alls. Thank you to social media. Like, everybody knows a little bit of something and feels like they know it more than the next person. Mm-hmm. Have you encountered people who wanted to challenge you on facts about the book and point out things that they say might not be true or whatever like that? Have you faced that, and what's it like to having to prepare for that?
I haven't had any adversity to try to challenge me. I actually welcome it because I believe in my researching ability, and this is a 10-year process of me compiling all this information. So I welcome anybody that has any kind of different viewpoints or different historical references that they want to add to the book. I welcome it.
Okay, man.
It's a conversation piece.
10 years definitely is a long time to work on a project, man. Like who are some of the people who assisted you in the creation of the book?
The brother named Supreme Understanding, who runs Supreme Design Online, he assisted me with this project. Proven Publishing is another company that assisted me with the project. And basically, I'm self-published, really. I had to get the book out to let the people know what the true history is, and I think it's just right on time for me doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely right on time what you're doing it, man. So we're in a place right now where we're still in a lot of a confusing state when it comes to cannabis, especially in Georgia. Hemp, especially in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
There's even talks about trying to somehow decriminalize something that's already, it's been talk about that already, man. Right. How do you feel about, the sentiments of some of these people who are still kind of backwards out here in Georgia, and their way of kind of holding up the process is doing things like that, coming up with more unique ways to arrest you?
I think that's exactly what you hit the nail on the head with that one, brother. I mean, Georgia is a state that's about the money. When we started going to the House and started speaking with the House representatives in like 2014, we understood that. We understood that we had to make sense to them in the money aspect of it. So that's when we started talking about industrial hemp, because when we started having the conversation on cannabis and marijuana, they weren't trying to hear it.
Yeah.
So we had to make it seem like, okay, well, Georgia's an agricultural state. Y'all haven't been producing any agriculture, so let's get back to hemp and be the number one agricultural state again. Yeah. So it's just understanding, like I say, just getting people informed, man. It's all about education and information, brother.
Yeah, it's terrible, man, because I feel like we use it as political football. Like right now we're in a place where we about to have an election for president, senators, and all that other stuff.
So those who have eyes can see this.
And people love having these conversations around this time, and I actually think it's probably the best time to do it, because I look at it as presidential election is very important. Don't ever get it wrong. Right. But when you're in a space where there's like 32 Senate seats up in the air, and he's been winning at the minimum by 5 seats, you know what I'm saying? If you lose the Senate, you again looking at 4 years of no power. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like people need to keep their eyes open about how we are playing these politic games. You know what I mean? Like I definitely want to side with people who are pro cannabis, pro hemp, but I want to make sure you're about that life all the way down the road. You know what I mean? Like not just something you saying right this second, and then when you get in office, you forget all about it.
Right. Well, you made an excellent point, brother. It's a lot of people who get into office and promise us a lot and make all these political promises and never follow through. So I think our position needs to be that we need to be paying these politicians. We need to get in understanding that lobbying is how we control these politicians.
Yeah.
So we don't have them to a standard and to a specific bullet point of our needs and wants.
Yeah.
Then it's just really, political politics, as you say. You know what I'm saying?
And lobbying is a key part of all this right now. I
don't think people the key part.
Yeah, I don't think people fully understand the power, and the good and the evil power of lobbying, man. But you have a good chance to see some of it up close, thanks to Coach.
Yeah.
Speak about the power of lobbying out here when it comes to trying to keep hemp on the good side of things, and trying to get some of these politicians to open up their eyes and ears to what can actually happen in Georgia.
But when we got into this game in 2014 with CPR 420, we understood that the power, it all lies into the power of the vote. So influencing the influencers who make the decisions is where your power is going to come into play. So we understood that. We went in and start really schmoozing with these House representatives, taking them to lunch, buying them lunch, informing them, bringing them pamphlets and informing them to what hemp is versus marijuana.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I wrote the book, is because they don't know.
No,
so if the politicians and lawmakers don't know,
no, they don't.
Then how how can they make the right decisions?
And I thought the fact that they didn't know was a whole win for people who are just recreational cannabis smokers. Cause I'm like, bro, they don't even know. You know what I'm saying?
They have no idea. They really think it's reefer madness out here again, man. So it's funny to me, you know, to be in that situation, man. But like I said, we've been seeing it since 2014. We've seen the progression, but it's a lot of still pushback because there's no understanding. There's really no education about what hemp is and the psychoactive, the industrial benefits of it. I'll just keep it like that.
Not at all, man. And again, we're in a place where you need to start making decisions. We're supposed to start, where they got the licenses, you're supposed to start seeing some actual production, you would hope, coming down the road. How optimistic are you that we're going to see, some actual work come out of Georgia where we can start being proud about what we're about to see come through here?
I just still think we're a long way away, man. Okay. Until they lift that federal ban, Georgia's just one of those states that's in the Bible Belt that we just gonna have to suffer through it, So I mean, it's a couple things that they've done to decriminalize, and the oil bill and things like that. But as far as full legalization, being able to enjoy our plant lawfully, recreationally, I think it's gonna be a minute for Georgia.
Yeah, man. I'm not.
Atlanta might be different because the city jurisdictions is different than state jurisdictions.
Oh, buddy, Atlanta and Georgia are two different places. You know what I'm saying? That is a fact. That's a big truth, man.
That is a fact.
So looking down the road, what are we gonna see next from the indigenous history of hemp, the book? Like, are you gonna try to turn it into a visual situation where like we do live interviews with some of the people who are part of the process and give people that level of access into the book, into the knowledge?
Yeah, I would love to do things like that. I'm working on a movie. We're working on the audio books. I know a lot of people, gravitate to audio books and they're not reading anymore.
Isn't that sad, man?
It is reading.
I'm very upset when people just don't read. Like, I went into a situation last week where I feel like, people, and I'd say this, I'm going through high school, we were taught how to skim. You know what I'm saying? When you read the book, like occasionally you can get through a passage by skimming.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think people forgot that, also reading for context is good too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we have a world now where people are so quick to hit publish, things are moving such a quick way that people just skim through stuff. Whereas where you get a ton of petty arguments and a bunch of stuff happening online that don't make no kind of sense.
Don't make no sense at all. It's a whole lot of mental masturbation.
Yes.
Yeah, man. But like I said, just promoting the book tours, educational seminars. I have an educational seminar coming up pretty soon on the 20th with the Shinnecock. Doing some hemp education with them.
And you work a lot with natives,
featured in the first, Native American magazine called,
awesome. What's
Tribal Hemp and Cannabis.
Tribal Hemp and Cannabis?
Sorry, I just had a freeze real quick, and that's actually for you. I brought a copy for you, bro.
That's solid. Appreciate that, man. Yeah. Appreciate that. Congratulations on the process, man. The hardest thing to do is get people to understand what you're doing. Especially in this space, everything is so new.
It is. Trying
to get people to kind of catch what you're saying has to be the hardest thing. You know what I mean? So I have to applaud you for bringing it this far.
It is, and it's simple, really. It's this: if we get back to our tribal affiliations and our tribal estates and our tribal clans and families, that's where our indigenous and unalienable laws are at. Mm-hmm. So if we get into that particular vehicle, that vehicle will take us farther along in this journey. Yeah. Especially with this plant being an indigenous plant.
You spoke tribal in a lot of things, man. Like whether or not you're even an actual citizen. We've had those conversations. How important is it for you? You know what I mean? And everybody might not agree, but how important is it for you for people of color to not only understand the actual origin in this country, but once they understand that, you'll fully get more of that book.
It's all about action, man. It's all about how you contract and everything is a contract, whether it's verbal, whether it's commercial. Everything is a contract. So your status dictates your position in the contract and how you're going to be treated in that contract. So it's just understanding that we have different options available to us that'll get us farther along than certain things that we've been doing back, that our grandparents did. And
what are some of those options you feel that people of color might want to take heed, you know what I'm saying, and pay attention to?
Understanding more of how to operate on the private side versus the public. Simple as that. Understanding your different statuses, that you can take advantage of with being a national, or things of just understanding your tribal affiliation and the power of that, and the power really of a nonprofit. Yeah. It's simple things that we can start to put into action immediately, and it doesn't have to take a lot of fighting amongst ourselves to do it.
Yeah, the fighting amongst ourselves is another issue. You know what I mean? Like we really, especially in cannabis, you're in a situation where people are in a rush to do what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I compare the music industry down here to the traffic we see down here. Like, if you ever notice when you're in traffic, you'll see a long line of people all in the same lane, and it's like 3 other lanes wide open. Like, you could easily make a left. Right. But instead, people just sit here in this lane and wait. Right. And the minute you see one person turn, then every other car turns. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it looks like to me. Like, it is. Where a lot of people kind of trying to tap their feet, just trying to get in where they fit in, and I think that's a
well, a lot of people are scared to be pioneers too, because the pioneers are the ones who take the first arrows, man. So if you're not built for this, if you're not built to challenge the system or to stand on your square, as we call it, stay what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because they're gonna try you, they're gonna test you, they're gonna make sure that what you're talking about that you can actually back up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, it's try. You have to be tried, to be able to go through the fire, man, and prove yourself worthy. So
that's a big fact, man. That's why I wanted to ask you about people coming to you about, well, I know this, is that true? People will try a situation all the time, especially when you call yourself a person who has a good knowledge of the subject, a subject matter expert. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which you are currently right this second. I think the next move for you should be actually putting on like maybe a little conference. You know what I'm saying? We're getting together like-minded people.
I think so too, man. I would need your help to, help pull something like that off, man. But I definitely think that a hemp conference in Atlanta, is something that needs to be done on an educational level, and something that looks like us, rather than these big corporation galas that we see popping up every now and then at the World Congress Center.
How you feel about those, man? Like I was told a little while ago that's how you know that your cities to the point where a lot of business is about to come. They say when you start seeing those conferences pop up, man.
And I think that's all it's about. It's just about them gauging, the business and see, okay, are they ready yet? Are they ready yet? You know what I'm saying? They just going around to different markets just to try out their spills on how to get this cannabis money. So it's all about recognizing what's real and what's not.
Yeah, man, it's
a lot of gold out here, and it's a lot of gold plated out here.
But it's a new thing, man. Like almost everybody's trying to tell you how to flip a house. It's like after a while, who's going to be? If you're selling houses, who's buying them? You know what I'm saying? If everybody's doing it, man.
Yeah. So I feel that we need to get more into the indigenous industrial side of this plant more than anything. Everybody wants to get into it and get a dispensary and get a brand, this, that, and the third. But it's like, who's going to really be producing all this hemp?
Yeah.
It's cannabis. Who's gonna be packaging it? You know what I'm saying? Who's gonna come out with the next level packaging that's gonna change the game?
And people jump past that. Like industry, stuff like that, like packaging and things like that, that is such a money maker. You know what I mean?
Instantly.
You know what I mean? And people are really focused on getting them a dispensary, and I'm with Bruce. If you never actually sold weed, man, wouldn't that be the wrong thing to try to get involved in?
It is. So just understand where your position at and where you're strong at. That's the role that you should take in this cannabis game. I don't think you should just follow what everybody else is doing. I think your strengths and your gifts is what's going to determine what's going to be beneficial to you in this game, just like everything else. Yeah. So it's all about knowledge itself.
Yeah. Who are some of the people you looked up to who kind of kept you inspired through this 10-year journey?
I got to say my family, first and foremost, my grandparents, all 4 of my grandparents I done smoked with, it's a family thing for us. So it was never looked at as something negative, it's something that we did as a family, as a sacrament, So really, my family, a couple friends that I mentioned in the book, Coach, Alexis, Empress, you know, Doc Hodge, you know, all the people that, you know, been in this journey, man, with us for the last 10 years, man. You know the faces.
Yeah.
You know the names. Because we all started together, you know, and we all featured in your movie. So, you know.
Yeah,
you know who the pioneers were.
I still remember sitting down at the state capitol that when I met Coach and was blown away that there were 5 black people in the room and 2 of them were me and Danny. And I was like, we just happened to show up. You know what I mean? Like it was so crazy. Shout out to Yo. Yo was there that day.
Man, shout out to Yo, man. Free Hydro Yo, man.
Yeah, man. So talk to us. If somebody wanted to learn more about the indigenous history of hemp, if they wanted to get the book, if they wanted to do all that, like how could they get in touch with you?
The indigenous history of hemp can be purchased at indigenoushistoryofhemp.com. You can reach us, the IHEA, at wearetheihea.org is our nonprofit site. If you need to connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, the Indigenous Hemp Education Association, or THE_IHEA on Instagram.
That's what's up, man. Well, I totally appreciate you coming through and giving us light on everything that's going on as far as with your organization. Definitely big up the fact that you're finally getting recognized. You know what I mean? Yeah, like your wealth of knowledge, man. It's about time that you finally got recognized, and I'm glad about that. So thank you for coming through tonight. I apologize for being short. Me, brother. Yeah, man, it's been a long day, bro. I feel like my head's about to explode. I appreciate you being patient with the kid.
All right, my brother.
And that's Cash Color Campus, high level of conversation. Again, sponsored by Jay's Elevation.